What's up everybody, I'm Jesse Showalter, and in this video we're going to be talking about the 5 advanced techniques you need to know if you want to be a power user of Invision Studio. If you didn't watch the first video about getting up and running with the basics, you should go back and do that first, because in this video we're going to be talking about things like advanced design techniques, prototyping and animation and the timeline, creating and using components, shared libraries, and export settings. By the time you're done with this video, you should know everything you need to know to be a power user of Invision Studio. I'm pretty excited. I hope you are too. Let's get started. Okay, jumping right in this part 2, I want to start talking about some advanced designing techniques. That's the first thing you should know about, and this includes things like responsive resizing, pinning, and scrolling. So let's talk about those in a little bit more detail now. If I'm looking at my design and I want to go ahead and preview that design, I can tap the preview button up there, but you can see that I can't really scroll anywhere. I can't do anything with it yet, and that's because I don't have scrolling turned on. So to do that, I'm going to have my artboard selected. I'm going to head up to scrolling. I'm going to decide whether or not I want to scroll vertically or horizontally. So I'm going to go ahead and just say vertically for now, and then I'm going to bring my preview back up and I'm going to go ahead and start moving my design around. Now I can scroll, but the problem we have now is this navigation down at the bottom really should be persistent, fixed, pinned into place so that it doesn't move. Well, that's an easy fix. We just go back in and we're gonna select, and we're just gonna go up and hit the pin button. So now when we bring our preview back up, we're able to scroll and that navigation stays pinned down at the bottom. That's a pretty easy thing. When I click on any element in my design, you can see the responsive resizing features come up in the details panel to the right. And you can see that this element is currently anchored to the left and to the top. And so that means if this artboard stretches out, which let's just zoom out a little bit so we can catch a little bit of that. If it stretches out, it's not gonna stretch responsively because we're telling Studio that it just needs to stay pinned to the left and to the right. But if we come into that same element and we also anchor it to the right, now it's horizontally anchored to the left and the right. Now as I resize, the background is, resizing responsively, but the rest of the elements are starting to get kind of whacked out. So what we'd want to do is double click and go in and find the individual elements, resize them as well, constraining the height and the width, anchoring it to the right hand side, and you can go through and do that to everything until you get nice responsive resizing out of all of your elements. On my screen, you can see that now I not only have my gaming page on the left, but I created a new individual game page. So let's create an interaction, a basic prototyping from this page over to this page. To do that, I can either press on the interaction icon or press the hotkey of C. Remember I had my element here tapped, and I'm now pressing C, and it's gonna allow me to lead to any other artboard. I'm gonna lead over to my game artboard, and I'm gonna choose the tap function, okay? When I do that, I'm gonna choose, it's gonna maintain the scroll position. I'm dictating which artboard I wanna go to, and then I'm gonna choose which type of transition. For now, let's stick with preset. When I choose preset, I have a bunch of different presets that I can choose from, but let's try the slide left and see how that looks. I'm gonna press save. Then what we can do is we can click on our element here, our large photo, press C to create an interaction, head back, and I like that Studio actually remembers the last interaction we made, but maybe we want to go the other way. Let's go the other way, slide right. Now when we play or preview, we can slide back to the right, slide left, and slide right. Now that's cool. We're able to create a basic prototype animation, maybe like a preset slide over, slide back kind of thing, but maybe Invision has a little bit more to offer. You're absolutely right, it does. Let's create a little bit more advanced prototype and animation by using motion. Let's start fresh slate here. We have no interactions on our elements. I'm gonna press C and create an interaction over to my second artboard. But we're gonna move this transition from preset over to motion. And let's just see what happens when we do that. We're gonna preview our design, and let's just see, starting on our home screen, what happens when we do that. Oh, some sauciness just took place. When I tapped on my element, all the other elements are kind of like animating or fading out, and it's just animating or transitioning the states between the two using motion. Absolutely mind-blowing. Now, it does matter. There's a few things to note when you're using motion. They have to be the same elements. And so it's important that I took this artboard and I moved it over, I duplicated it over, and then manipulated the elements, because Studio is gonna find all those elements, connect them in the back end, and figure out what work it's doing in between, what animation or motion work it's doing in between, and it's gonna simulate all of that for you without you having to do the work. But there's more. Let me show you a couple things. Down here in the interactions panel, you can see now that we have our interaction that's placed on this element. It has all the details that we set up, but let's get to the really cool stuff. Is we can drop down here and we can press the edit timeline button. When we do that, it's gonna open up the timeline. Each one of the individual layers now has the ability for me to manipulate the timeline. You wanna add a delay to, let's see, our card. You just grab it and you can move it back, and now it will be delayed in its transition. Well, that's pretty nice. Do you want to lengthen the transition? Just grab the tail end and drag it out, and now we get a completely different transition. And if that wasn't enough, you can even grab over here, and this is the easing type. We can choose to hit the easing type and play with it manually, or we can choose a certain type of pre-built easing. Like for instance, we wanna maybe pop it into place. Once you're all done and you like your animation, like maybe we wanna move some of these elements back a little bit, then we can press done, and now we have saved that animation. We can come in and just test it out. Boom, just like that. And that's a good looking animation to me. You may have noticed when we created our interaction that we only had access to two of the trigger types, either the desktop triggers or to the mobile triggers, but we didn't have access to these other mystery trigger types on the right-hand side. That's because these are reserved only on the artboard itself. So not the individual elements that you can tap, touch, click, or move, but on the actual artboard. So by selecting the artboard and going to my trigger types, I now have access to keyboard interactions as well as timed interactions. Components are like reusable elements that you create once and use everywhere in different instances, but the minute you change that master component, it's going to change it throughout your entire project, saving you tons of time. It's a really popular practice nowadays. We already have some components in our project, like this status bar up here. You'll notice if I click on the status bar in my layers panel, I get that purple kind of like component icon up there showing me that sure enough it is an icon. If I roll down my libraries and in my document, you can see that I have all of my components there. There's my status bar. What's really cool about components is you can make them once and they store the information, but they can be overridden in certain ways. Like for instance, if I double click on this component, I now get the individual elements used in this specific instance, and I can move those around if I want to. You'll also notice if I click on any component, I always get the edit master option up in the top right-hand corner of my canvas. And by tapping on that, I now get the opportunity to look at the master version of that component. And anything that I change here is gonna change in all of the rest of the symbols. Well, it's cool to have components, but how do you create components? Well, to do that, it's really, really easy. I'm gonna find an element like this play button, and I'm gonna head up to my component icon or press Command or Control K on your keyboard. When I do that, I get a create new component menu that drops down. What do I want to name it? And when I'm done creating it, do I want to go to the component master? You'll see what that means when I press done. It shoots me to the master page of that specific component where I can then tweak it, right? So that's pretty cool. I can say I'm done with that and head back, and now you'll see sure enough that is a component. Okay, next thing you need to know to be an advanced user of Invision Studio is how to use shared libraries and streamline your design process over your entire team so that you're all using the same components, the same design files, and staying on board and staying on track with everybody. You'll remember our libraries tab from the previous video. If I go up to my kind of area of my left-hand panel, it says libraries, and twirl it down, I can see that currently all I'm using is the documents library. When I tap on that, you can see all of my components that I've set up. I tap on any one, I get a visual preview. These are all the components that I have established for the document itself. But those components, that library, is specific to this document I'm working in. But we want to have a shared library so a team member who's working remote in a different country can utilize the same components that I've been making and working with. Well, that's really easy. We can just head up to libraries and hit the plus symbol, and we're going to search for an Invision Studio file that's filled with components that we want to use in this project as well. I have this buttons.studio file that I'm going to implement, and you can see when I do that, I now have a buttons library. Now that I have my shared library installed, I can see that I have visual representations of button 1 and button 2, different components for a project. And I can pull one of those buttons in, an instance of it, and put it into my project. But it's really, really big. Whoever made this button, I don't think they realized how big it was. And so I'm gonna wanna edit the master of it. Well, I'm gonna edit in the original document. It's gonna open it up for me, and now I can see the dimensions. I'm gonna just shrink it down a little bit to be somewhat manageable, just like that. And now you can see I'm done there. I'm gonna press done, and I'm gonna save those changes in my buttons file. This is my shared library that has all my button styles in it, right? Okay, I'm gonna close that up. As soon as I come back to the document I was working on, you can see that I have some activity icon going on my buttons library, and I have a change to review. So I'm gonna go ahead and review that change, and it's gonna say that button 2 has been modified, and I'm gonna go ahead and update that component. And now it's updated in my actual project as well. We're able to create design systems and share those systems throughout our teams, and that's how easy it is to kind of work with shared libraries. All right, the last thing you need to know about to be an advanced user of Invision Studio is exporting and sharing your work. We already kind of talked about basic exporting, but it goes a little something like this. To export your design, you're gonna choose the artboard or artboards that you want to export, and you're gonna head down to the export menu in the bottom right-hand corner. Tapping export, you can export one version of it, but tapping the plus button will allow you to export multiple versions of the same designs all at one time, which is super duper convenient. You can choose the size in which you want to export your design, 1x, 2x, 3x. You can also choose whether or not you want to add a prefix or a suffix like at 2x or at 3x. And you can also choose the export setting, like what file type you want, PNG, JPEG, or even SVG. After you're done with that, it tells you how many images you're actually going to be exporting, and you just export them to wherever you'd like, and that's as simple as it gets for exporting. A few of the other options you have to share your designs. This will allow you to share it and collaborate with other people by creating an Invision freehand. This plugs right into Invision's online platform where you're able to create the freehand, go right out to the web, and now we can annotate anything we want right here on the freehand. The next way that you can share your prototypes is right onto Invision itself by hitting the little share icon. You then choose what you would like to name this prototype, choose any settings you have, and then publish up to the web, just like so. And here it is online. We can see all of our prototype and animations just like we created it in Studio. It's all happening with full motion and timeline interaction. Really, really cool. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also hit that little bell notification icon so you know when another video like this one comes out. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I hope you guys are having an awesome week designing amazing things, making amazing things, and feeling a little bit more confident about your design tool of choice. I'll see you in the next one.